Well, I know three things pretty well. Every teenager needs an anthem, every teenage summer needs a soundtrack, and every generation looks for a trusted leader. Well, stay with us today on Deeper Living because we're going to introduce you to someone who might just be all three. Today on Deeper Living, our special guest is singer-songwriter Britt Nicole.
From coast to coast across North America, this is Deeper Living, bringing the inspirational marketplace to your front door. We exist to bring you the latest and greatest from authors, artists, and artisans around the world. You're going to love this.
Welcome to Deeper Living. I'm your host, Ginger Garrett, and I'm joined in the studio today by Britt Nicole. Britt, thank you so much for coming by. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And you have got a new CD, Say It. This is your debut CD, is it not?
I do, yeah. It just came out May 22nd.
And it's just making incredible waves in the industry.
It's doing great, yeah. I feel very blessed.
Well, I have to ask you, you're such a gorgeous young girl.
Thank you.
And everyone is going to want to know all about you. So
Right.
take us to the beginning. Have you always been a singer?
I grew up singing in church. My grandfather's a pastor.
Oh, okay.
My mom was in a Southern gospel group for a long time, so she made records and did that. My brother plays the guitar and leads worship. And so I grew up around music, obviously, my whole life, and ministry. But for me, I never had, this dream of I'm going to become an artist or I want to be famous or anything like that. It was really just, my life was kind of a day at a time, it's kind of how I lived. And I was saved when I was 7, so God was a part of my life. And I had planned on going to college to study music, actually, and then I got a scholarship to Belmont University. Was planning on going to school to study and then possibly doing something after that. That wasn't God's plan for me. When I was 17 and I had just graduated from high school, I just began to hear the Lord say to me, I want you to stay home in North Carolina, which is where I'm from. And I had no understanding of, why am I going to stay here? What am I going to do? This is a small town. There's not a whole lot for me to, so I started working at a gym and I started teaching dance and made the decision to stay home, which was a difficult decision because I had received a scholarship to go to school. And and that's something a lot of kids do, especially coming out of high school. They, are going, what am I going to do with my life? What is my purpose? And I clearly heard the Lord say, this is what I have for you, is to stay home. And that was all he said. He didn't say, stay home and I'm going to give you this, or stay home with this. It was first I had to go, okay, I'm going to take the first step and obey you. And then it was like God began to show me, okay, here's what I have for you. And doors began to open for me to do music, and I started doing it independently when I was 17, right out of high school. And I've been doing it ever since. So I grew up singing, though, all of my life. I did pageants when I was younger. Sang country music and pageants, which is not at all what I sing now. So I've always loved to sing. I've always loved to be on stage. I love to see the effect that music can have on people's lives and to watch their actual facial expressions change when you begin to sing a song and you can see that their song is reaching into their heart and it's touching them, and it's speaking to them. And that's what I love about music. That's what I love about what I do.
Oh, that is an amazing story. So you were all set to go to college. You knew what you were going to study, and you were on target. And all of a sudden, God said to stay home, and that's it.
It was it. And I had my dorm. I had a roommate. I was buying things for my dorm. I had a scholarship, and it was all perfectly like this is the perfect thing for me. All these doors have been open. Everyone was so excited that I got the scholarship because at first we were thinking, my parents and I, maybe I'm not going to get in because it's a difficult program. And so when I got accepted, I immediately said, this is God's will, and it wasn't. And that was it. It was the Lord said, stay home. And this is what I heard the Lord say. It was the first time that I really heard God really clear, and people say, God talks to you, God speaks to you, that's weird. But growing up, I had never had this constant communication with God or anything, but this was the first time in my life where it was just very clear that God said, Britt, you've given me part of your heart, but you haven't given me everything. And I'm asking you to surrender your life to me, and if you will do that, I will bring every dream to pass.
Wow.
And when God said that, I began just to cry. I was in my car and I started crying, and I just was like, God, I want to go to school, but I want to do your will so much more, and I know your plans are so much better than mine. So I was like, here, do with me what you want. And this is this record, Say It. You know, this is God's plan, and it's not about me being an artist or about me being famous. It's about people who are hurting, people who need a message of hope and of freedom, and that's what I'm called to do.
Yeah. And so that was a time of testing for you.
Yeah.
And God was preparing you for this ministry.
Yeah.
And how do you make that transition from being someone being tested in the fires, and now suddenly here you are with a hit CD and you're ministering to people? What is that process?
I think really you just have to be faithful to God through all of it, you know, and He's faithful to us in the good, and the bad. He's always there. There's a scripture that God gave me even in that time. It's 1 Chronicles 28:20. Yeah. And He said, the scripture says, be strong and courageous and do the work. Don't be afraid or discouraged by the size of the task. For the Lord my God is with you. He will never fail you or never forsake you. And I stood on that scripture, you know, it's like, because I was 17 years old, and I said, wow, this is huge, God, like you're calling me, and I heard the Lord say, I'm calling you into ministry, and I thought, ministry, like, what? I'm 17, what do I have to say? You know, and it's funny that my record's called Say It, because I was asking God and saying, I don't have anything to say. I was looking at my past, and my parents were divorced when I was 7, and I was saying, I have all these own struggles of my own. Like, how am I going to help somebody else? You know? And the Lord was like, yeah, this is a big task. That's what the scripture said, but be strong and be courageous, and I'm with you, you know? So it was just, I think, making a choice, making a decision to say, yeah, I'm being tested, but I'm going to be faithful to God. I'm going to be obedient to Him, to His voice. And then it's cool just to watch God bless that, you know, and just turn around something that maybe I thought, I don't know if this is right. This is a time of testing. This is a test of obedience. You know, am I going to be obedient? And then to watch God say, because of your obedience, I'm blessing you. You know, and that's what He's done. So
how did that start to come together? How did God start to bring the people into your life that put you on this fast track?
I think in the beginning, for me, it was a lot of hard work alone. My parents worked a lot, and they didn't have a lot of time to invest and say, hey, let's make phone calls, let's do this. And my mom had some connections in the Southern gospel industry because she sang Southern gospel, but in the contemporary Christian music industry, she didn't have any connections. And I think when it's God's plan, though, He sends the people and He opens the door. It's nothing that you have to force. You know, you probably know that as being an author. I mean, it's not, if it's God's plan for your life, it's going to work out. You're not going to have to force it and make it happen and beg people to work with you or beg people to support you or believe in you, you know. And God just began to bring people into my life. I mean, even starting out with just people who prayed for me on a consistent basis, which I think is so important, you know. And I think that without maybe what they're doing isn't something that's done in public. Maybe they're not out like a manager or a publicist or somebody walking with me, taking me everywhere, scheduling meetings and all that. But I know that behind closed doors, they're on their knees, you know, they're praying for me, and that just means so much to me. I have a friend named Ashley, and I grew up with her, and she's always been one who I always know she's praying for me. You know, I always know that if I'm going through something, I'll just know Ashley's praying for me, and I'm okay. But God just began to bring people into my life, and it was His doing. Long story. I met my manager lived in Nashville, and my mom knew him through a friend. Who had it was a friend who had a friend thing. But really, it was just a God thing. Altogether, God brought the people, and I have an amazing team now that surrounds me. So it's a blessing.
Well, who was the first person to have the idea? We need to do a CD with you.
I actually did some backup for a friend in North Carolina, a small studio called Hit Music Incorporated in Spencer, North Carolina, which is right outside of Salisbury, my town. They heard me sing, I think I was 15 or 16, and they said, oh, we love your voice, and whenever you're ready to do a record, we would like to work with you. So when I made the decision not to go to school, I remembered, hey, these guys that I had met, they wanted to thought about doing a record with me, and so we started communicating with them, and I decided to do an independent record with them. So I have 2 independent records before this one.
Okay, fantastic.
As far as this one goes, I met with Sparrow Records when I first moved to Nashville 2.5 years ago, and they loved my heart. They loved what I was about, but they said, we don't think you're ready as an artist. And that's one of those things where you go, okay, you know, you don't get discouraged. You can get discouraged. A lot of people go, well, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna work more. I'm gonna work harder. Yeah. I'm gonna develop myself as an artist, as a songwriter. I'm gonna find out what kind of music I like. Even because when I started there, it was like they said, well, what do you listen to? What do you like? And I said, oh, I love everything. You know, I like pop. I like rock. I like worship. I like black gospel. I love Southern gospel. I love everything. You know, and they're like, well, you can't do everything. You have to find out who you are as an artist and what you have to say. Yeah. And so the last 2 years of my life have been finding out just even who I am, not as an artist, but just as a person, you know, and what do I feel like I have to say to people that are going to be listening. And so that's what I've been, you know, doing over the last couple of years. And then I ended up doing a showcase for Sparrow when I felt like I was ready, and they loved it. They loved my new music and my songwriting, and so they decided to sign me.
Oh, and what a great decision they made.
Oh,
well, we have so much ground to cover with you, and we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with singer-songwriter Britt Nicole, so stay with us.
Hi, I'm Steve Deal. I'm here with Ryland Angel. Hey, Ryland, how are you?
Very well, thanks, mate.
Great. Ryland has a new CD out on the EMI label, and it is going to take the country by storm. You need to check it out. Check it out at www.deeperLiving.com.
Well, welcome back to Deeper Living. Our guest today is singer-songwriter Britt Nicole. And Britt, we have so much ground to cover, but let's start. I want to talk about your generational influence and who you are compared to some of the other women in your generation. But first, something that I know everyone's wondering about is I keep saying singer-songwriter. Right. That's a big difference. There are a lot of singers who don't write their own material, so tell us about that.
I think, a lot of new artists, when they first come out, like I said earlier, they don't know necessarily who they are. As an artist, they don't know exactly what they want to say. That's why I'm so thankful that I had the time to spend the last 2 years and write. I've written over 100 songs in the last 2 years. And just, you know, just putting it all out there going, this is, you know, and a ton of bad songs, you know, I thought, oh, these are terrible, you know, but then a lot of great songs as well. When we were picking songs for the record, it was like, we had like this list of like 25, 30 songs, and I'm just picking, which ones, God, do you want on there? Because I loved all of them, you know. But it was a huge blessing for me to have that time to find out what I wanted to say, and to be able to have a part in my record it's a personal thing, you know, and to say this is something that I really want to say, not something that somebody else has written. I love that I'm able to do that.
Well, for those of us who aren't in recording studios, we've never made a CD, how does an artist pick the songs that go onto a CD?
I think you want to have a variety of songs. There's a lot of things that play into it. I think number one, for me as an artist, I want to take it to God and say, because He knows what songs need to be on there, you know, and say what songs do people need to hear, you know. Number two, I wanted to make a record, and I think a lot of artists, they want it to be fun. At the same time, you want to talk about some real issues, and have some depth to what you're saying, you know, where it's not just all just shallow fun, you know, and those are great songs. But at the same time, you want to say something to people. And so it's finding that balance between, you know, having songs on there that are fun, that you want to dance and sing to and roll down your windows and have fun. And then the songs that are going, okay, now with these 3 or 4 songs, I really want to say something. You know, so I think it's just finding that balance and just knowing for you what's right as an artist.
Well, your CD is called Say It, and you keep talking about, you know, laying it out there and saying what's on your heart. Tell me a little bit about what's your message to your generation of women?
I want to bring a message of hope and healing to broken people. I think that's where I'm at right now. I think there'll be other seasons in my life where maybe that'll change, and, you know, make a new record, and it might my ministry could shift to another place. But right now, and I think for me, coming from a divorced family and going into not only youth groups but other places, festivals, and just standing, because I sing to tons of Christians and non-Christians alike, and looking out to the audience and seeing faces where it's obvious that they're hurting. I was singing at a camp last night in Arkansas, and there was one girl on the front row, and I began to talk about a song on the record called When She Cries, which is a song about cutting, and that's a huge thing right now among not only young girls but guys as well. And it comes from, I've read a lot about it, and I've read that it comes from feeling rejected, and I personally have never cut or followed through with anything like that, but I have felt rejected, And I think everybody's felt that at some point in their life, and I wanted, so for me, laying it out there is being honest and saying, here's things that I've even struggled with, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I think that young people want something real, But, the young girl was standing on the front row, and I could tell in her face that she was so broken and she was hurting, and as I began to talk about that song, she just began to cry, and so for me, this record, I feel like it's handing somebody. I told somebody today, they said, well, because they own a Christian bookstore, and they said, well, what can we tell people when they buy your record or when they're asking about you? I said, tell them that it's just like handing them a message of hope. It's just like going, here's hope. If you're hurting, if you're broken, if you're searching, if you're wondering, if you're confused, all of those things are things that I felt, and it's like this is hope. This is because there's songs on there that are just so much fun, and you don't even have to think when you're listening to them, which I love. It's just like, hey, let's just have fun, And then there's songs that where I talk about those things, but that's why I called the record "Say It." Was just I was like, hey, here's the good things, the bad things. I just kind of want to lay it all out there and be honest with people.
Well, how do you handle the pressure? Because obviously you're a beautiful girl, you're in the entertainment industry, there's so much pressure on you from all different sides as far as your appearance and maybe changing your message just a little so that you'll be more mainstream. They want you to compromise. How do you handle all that pressure? Where do you find your strength?
I definitely have to have my time with God and your alone time, so important. I mean, I find myself, whenever I don't have that time with God, just kind of wavering and feeling pulled and feeling the pressure. But when I'm really like solid in my relationship with God, and I'm taking that time every day to be with Him, so it's really easy to handle it, because it's like I'm planted. Even if I feel like if people are pulling me in every direction, it's like I know I've got some place where I'm just like I'm solid right here with God. As far as the pressure though. I mean, like you said, like with the appearance, I mean, that can be, with me, like, for instance, I love to change my hair color. I would change it every day if I could, And with this, it's like you've got to, you got to keep, they say, well, don't cut your hair or don't color any different, because you need to look like this the way you look in your record, which is totally understandable. It'd be crazy to have that with, with brown hair and then come out with blonde and short hair, But I was talking to my best friend the other day, I was like, I just want to cut my hair, I want to cut it really short, and I want to color it blonde, but I used to be blonde. I was blonde forever, so brunette is different for me. But I mean, there's pressures like that where you go, this is something that I wanted to do, and so these are things that you kind of have to deal with, And those are the funny things as far as the pressure. But as far as feeling pulled or anything like that, it's just really important for me and for artists in general, just to take that time with God.
Well, one of the things that has come up when we've talked to Christian artists is their relationship with their fans is so different than, say, someone else who has just a purely secular message with no hope and no inspiration. So when a fan buys the CD, when they come to your show, what do you think they're looking for from you?
I think for one, they're looking for someone they can trust. Over 52% of the church is divorced, and so they're looking for someone that they can talk to, they can trust. I mean, like last night, I keep bringing up that camp, but I had a guy come up to me and say, I cut myself, and he showed me, he had bracelets like this where he would cover up his cuts and say, oh, this one's from Saturday and this one's from the other day, and I said, have you ever told anybody? And he said no. And so the fact that they feel like they can trust you with something like that, they don't even know me, but they trust me because they see Jesus, and I love that. I love that so much. And I did a concert not long ago, and I had young girls come up to me and say, I've been molested by my grandfather, I've been molested by my brother, my cousins. God was really, this was the first time anything like that has ever happened, but God was really working in people's hearts and their lives, and they began to come to the front during the concert and share these things with me and say, I need help, I need someone to help me get through this, you know. So I think they're looking for someone they can trust. Sure. And I hope that I can be that person.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you are. And so you've told us that you really get so much of your strength by spending time with the Lord and spending time alone. Right. When it's time just to let the hair down and unwind, what can we find you doing?
I love to dance.
Do you?
I grew up taking dance. I took for 12 years. I don't get to take as much now, but when I'm home, I'm back in Franklin, Tennessee. I try to take some classes. That's like a stress kind of relief for me. But I love being outside. I love going to the pool, going to the park. Spending time. I have my best friend Jennifer. She moved from North Carolina to Nashville. I love, spending time with her and with my family when I can, and I love to sleep. I hate that. I do. I love to sleep. You could probably find me doing that.
And you don't get a lot of sleep when you're on the road, do you?
Yeah, I was just telling you earlier that since I did that show last night, I had to come straight here after that, so I went, I haven't slept yet.
Right. What time did you check into the hotel?
I checked in at 4 a.m. and I had to be at the airport at 5 a.m. So I ran in, took a shower, barely made it. I was running through the airport.
Oh my goodness! Well, I can see why you need that core of strength
you have to have it, and it's difficult to take that time when you're busy. You have to make it a priority. So
Well, this has been so much fun. We have one more segment, so stay with us. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're coming back for our final segment with singer-songwriter Britt Nicole, so stay with us.
Award-winning designer Deborah Bordeaux brings you her For You Designs collection, made in sterling silver with crystal and semi-precious gems. Each item comes uniquely gift-packed with an exclusive poem inspired by the Word of God. This collection is themed by life events: friendship, love, praise, remembrance, and even salvation. The perfect reminder of God's promises for yourself or for a cherished friend or family member. With the For You Designs collection, you will never be at a loss for words.
Welcome back to our final segment today with singer-songwriter Britt Nicole and her new CD, Say It. So Britt, you were recently on the cover of a magazine, were you not?
Yes, Brio. I grew up reading that magazine, so to see myself on the cover was pretty funny.
Yeah, pretty wild. So you're a singer, you're a songwriter, and now you're a cover girl. You are really a role model, not only for your generation, but for the young girls coming up behind you. Definitely. What does that mean to be a role model? What does it mean to you?
It's a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, it can be a lot of pressure. But at the same time, I think it's very important to take the responsibility that you are a role model. A lot of young women in music in general, or actresses, whatever, they say, well, I didn't ask to be a role model. So you hear that a lot. Well, I didn't ask to be a role model, and I don't see myself as a role model. But whether you like it or not, you are. You know, when you're out there in the public eye, and when people are hearing your music and listening to you, they want to know, they're listening to what you're saying. And you are a role model, and so I try to take advantage of it and not go, oh, I wish that so many girls didn't look up to me. I go, wow, what an amazing opportunity to share God with people and to share hope and love. I asked God one day, I said, God, what am I called to do? Because I keep talking about this, but just our calling, our purpose, and all that. But it was so simple. I just heard the Lord say to love, and I think that's what. And I started naming my mom, and my brother. I was like, what about my brother? What about my mom? All my friends. What are we called to do? And it wasn't something different for each one. Well, your brother Bryn's called to be a worship leader, and your mom is called to work with young girls, and Ginger's called to be an author and work on a TV show. It wasn't that. It wasn't work. It was to love. And so I try to take advantage of the opportunity and just reach out to girls and love them and to be an example in the way that I act, the things that I do, the decisions that I make on a daily basis, the way that I dress. To represent Christ and all that I do.
You know what I love about you, and I think what our viewers are just going to fall in love with you, is that you are so strategic. I mean, the other women of your generation, I see so many, like you said, they don't take responsibility for being a role model.
Right.
You not only take responsibility, you're aggressively pursuing opportunities to influence.
Right,
And
yeah.
where do you get
Thank you.
that constant inspiration? What keeps you fresh when you're out there?
I love people,
Yeah.
you know, and I want to see, I want to, like you said, fresh, you know,
Yeah.
it's easy to get kind of stuck in the old way of doing things and stuck in the mold, and I want to be, I mean, I love fashion, you know, but even with the way that I dress, it's like, I'm going to dress in with what I'm going to wear what I like, you know, and I want to be fresh and all those things because, I mean, young girls, they look at that, you know what I mean? They look at even the way that you look in the dress, and they, wow, that's cool. It's a cool, it's a cool shirt. That's, you know, and it's sweet, and it's and I love being able to be a role model to them, and I find my inspiration through them, you know, through the fact that they need someone that they can trust. A lot of them, and they want someone to look up to and go, wow, like, if she can accomplish her dreams, I can too, you know. And so I love people. I love them, and so they inspire me to do it. You know?
Well, let's talk. We have a few minutes left. Let's talk about the music, because the music on here really is so fresh. Tell me a little bit about the sound and what makes a Britt Nicole song.
Right. Overall, it's a pop record. But it's different. It's not your your normal pop rock. That you've heard a lot of. It has a fresh sound, like you said. There's a lot of programming, a lot of really cool beats. I grew up taking dance, like I said, so I love like hip hop and anything that'll make you dance. I love it. So the record is there's a variety of styles. I think all in all, it's a pop record, and it's very fresh, it's very fun, it's high energy. There's one song on there that's a straight like ballad, just with the keyboard. It's a song about my parents' divorce called "Don't Worry Now," which is a song that's really close to my heart. And so really, it's an honest record, but as far as it's in the lyric, I believe really is a message to people. As far as the way that it sounds, it's fun and it's fresh. That's how I describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about when you were recording "Don't Worry Now."
Yes.
Okay. How did you write that song, and what was that like to record that? And what was it like for you when your parents heard it for the first time?
Yeah. My dad cried. He cried. Yeah. Yeah. He's a sensitive guy. He's awesome. Yeah. It was a song that came from a broken place, but then where God restored healing to my life. So really, it's a happy song. A lot of people hear it and they go, "It's so sad," and it does make you. It'll make you cry. It talks about in the first verse. It talks about the experience that. Things that happened between my family and I, and how my dad said, you know, I'm having to go, and it says with tears streaming down his face, he says, we're going to make it, we're going to make it, you know, and then it says, don't worry now, when you feel like you're alone, don't worry, and you know, it goes into a lot of other things, but I had held on to a lot of hurt and a lot of pain from the time I was 7 until the time I was 20. I wrote the song 2 years ago. And it was really just a letting go and giving it to God and saying, I forgive my parents. And because I even had unforgiveness towards them that I didn't know that I had. And it was really just a forgiving, a letting go, and saying, God, I want to see people's lives change through this song. And so I wrote the song, Don't Worry Now.
Wow. Well, we can't wait to share this with all of our viewers. And if you want to get this CD, it is on our website at deeperLiving.com. And we know we are going to hear so much more from you in the future. Will you come back and visit us when you're in Atlanta?
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being our guest. And remember to stay with us and watch us every day on Deeper Living. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.